Welcome to the Life Changers Playbook. So, on this show, we bring experts from around the world who are out there making an impact, and they're helping other entrepreneurs make an even bigger impact by changing the way they look at business. So, I am honored to have our guest today, Gerry, who is an expert at helping teams perform at the highest level possible. As a business owner, sometimes we get in our own heads. Have you ever seen an orchestra? You've got the conductor up there running the show. As entrepreneurs, we sometimes end up as that conductor. And Gerry is the expert that comes in and helps us fix that problem. Because let's be candid, it is a problem. So with that said, Gerry, introduce yourself. Who are you? What do you do? What's your background?
Hey, Justin, thanks. Glad to be here. Glad to be on your show. So my name is Gerry Kirk, and you can tell from my accent, I'm way up in Canada. And so I've been working for, I guess about 16 years now as a consultant and coach, really working with organizations of all sizes, from startups to, mid-size to full-on enterprise. It doesn't really matter what the size is. I find in the end, even though we're in such a technology-driven world, that success really comes down to people, right? And how they figure out how to work together, how to make stuff happen, how to learn, how to deal with stuff. And so, even though I've been in the technology space, my focus is entirely around the systems that unlock that human potential. And so glad to be on your show.
We are thrilled to have you. So tell us about some of the things, the people you are working with. What are the things they're struggling with? What causes someone to reach out to you? What could we identify with as entrepreneurs as far as those issues?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, in the beginning, everything's exciting, right? And you're getting some traction, you're doing the grind thing, you're putting in the hours, you're making some progress. I mean, it was just actually even just talking to, a couple entrepreneurs today. I mean, they're in that space, they're up to six figures now, and they've had some success, but now they're like, crap, how do we get to that next level, right? Like they're struggling, they're not seeing things, they're forgetting stuff, they're trying to launch things, and weeks go by and it's still not happening. And so they're just kind of frustrated by their lack of results and execution, because life has gotten more complicated, right? What was working for them early on with their simple approach to running their business no longer is enough. And so what I find is that's often the case is when the issues get more complex and you're dealing with, bigger customer issues or so on, just kind of winging it doesn't work anymore. And so a big reason for that is, even though we're doing the work and we kind of think we know what we're doing, really we have no idea. And I'll give you a great story to illustrate this. So I was once working with a manager in actually it was a not-for-profit actually, and they're probably like the worst case scenario for too much to do, right? Because always wearing their heart on their sleeve and taking on more because they want to do more. And so I was working with this one woman and trying to map out her day to day and the things that she's involved in. And so at the end of that first week, I like to have people look at their work in a new way. So the first thing is to see it really clear, right? And so I'm a big fan of a visual management systems. Maybe some of you heard of Trello and stuff like that, kind of in that flavor, right? Where you see the work in front of you, because our brains process things in patterns, right? So colors are helpful, shapes are helpful, and all that. We can make more meaning of stuff. Anyway, so I was asking her, so what did you find satisfying from this past week? Or what was challenging? And she's looking at her stuff, and she didn't kind of say anything at first, and it's like, well, I had this or that, and but like then I said, okay, like literally point to something on your work board, like just point to something that you're like, yeah, you know what, that felt really great. And so she's looking at her board, and she gets really quiet, and then she kind of starts getting emotional, and she realized for probably the first time that there wasn't one thing that she had done that week that she had actually enjoyed doing. And it was only at that moment that she had that realization. And so with this new awareness, right, she was then able to make changes, right, to shift into something that was more meaningful and purposeful. And obviously that's going to create more value in her role. And so it's the same in regardless of your business. There's a lot of things going on that we have no idea. And so I try to help entrepreneurs get clear on what is it that you want to discover about yourself, about your business, and then design a system to give you that feedback quickly, early, and often so that you can make informed choices. I think that's really the opportunity, right? When you're getting stuck is you got to figure out, well, what's not working, and it's not often clear.
I love that. So getting clear on what you're looking for is huge. So let me ask you this. What are some of those questions that we should be asking ourselves in order to get that clarity, get that understanding of what we really want out of what we're doing?
Sure. Well, I mean, first off, hopefully you've got clarity around like what your goals are, right? So, I'm really big on your why. So like why are you even in business? Why are you doing what you're trying to do? Who are you trying to serve? Like those are fundamental questions that sometimes we forget about in the pursuit of the almighty dollar, right? And so with clarity around that, then we can get more focused on the what. And so particularly around the what, we can design our system to give us feedback. So it might be, for example, we might want to know, like, say there's some project we're never getting to, right? Like we know it's a big opportunity, but it's just like all these things are just all these urgent things just keep like screaming at us and coming from all directions, and we're like it's just you feel helpless. I worked with a manager once, and she would have like long days. She would go home at night and bring work home with her. She didn't sleep well. She always felt like she was behind, and not getting to the stuff she really wanted to do. So in that case, like one of the questions is, what's really going on? What's getting in my way of doing these other things, and how can I make a shift? So what we started to do was we classified the different kinds of work that she had, right? So there's like her, admin stuff, or management stuff, or this project, this revenue thing. And by the end of the week, we could see, what was getting done and what wasn't. And what was interesting is this whole body of work showed up as something she'd put time on. Now, armed with that insight, she was able to actually delegate that to someone else. And lo and behold, that created the space in her week to then pull in this other stuff that she really wanted to do, right? So that was hugely valuable. And then the other thing that we did is, like, a lot of times we overestimate what's possible, right? Like we're so excited, there's so many things we want to do, and we just pile it all in, and then we feel like crap because at the end of the day, we've knocked off maybe this much of our massive list, and we're like, man, we're just losers. So one thing that I try to do is, again, with data, I'm very big on making data-driven decisions, right? Because data doesn't lie. You can't play with what's in front of you, right? You can't talk yourself out of things. So in her case, we also looked at, well, how much was she getting done every day? Like we call that a throughput. So if we know, like on average, she's going to get 6 things done a day, that's roughly 30 a week. So now as she goes into every week, she knows approximately what's possible for her on a daily and a weekly basis, which then also helps, like, say, if you want to do this launch and roughly how big it is, how much you can get done in a week. Now I've got a rough idea, well, at this current pace, if I don't change anything, we're looking at like a month launch, and crap, I wanted to launch in 2 weeks. Okay, armed with that information now, with that feedback from our system, we can make an informed choice around, okay, do we shift the date, or do we shift what I'm doing, or do we bring someone in? But we're not like grinding it out until like 2 days before the launch we really wanted to find out, crap, there's just no way we're going to make it. Now we've actually got a fighting chance.
I love that. You know, it's so true. Like anybody who knows me knows that I would never overestimate what could be.
Not you, definitely not Justin.
So as entrepreneurs, we get stuck so many times in this area of, I need to do this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this. Like if I showed you my task list, you'd be like, Justin, you're insane. How are you ever going to get through that? But it's our drug of choice. And then at the end of the day, we all beat ourselves because we didn't do everything. Well, it sounds like that's some of the things you help people figure out.
Well, and to be fair to you, Justin, it's, you know, it's not your fault, right? So I'm just gonna tell you right now, you know, you're awesome. You're doing the best you can. Where the problem is you're working with a hammer, a chisel, and a stone tablet, right? The problem is the tools that we've been given traditionally aren't meant for the rapid information age that we're in now, right? Like the good old, to-do list, the checklist that, grandpa had back in his day, that hangs up on the family wall in a frame, like that thing is dead. Like it does not serve anyone. What we need is, just think about now how we just drive. Does anyone look at a map anymore? Right? Like they just talk to their phone and then just kind of follow blindly, right? Because they have a system that can figure out the current context and then make those choices for us, right? Given like traffic patterns and time of day and, construction, or someone, crashed their car, whatever it is. There's all these, that's our reality, is there's all these things constantly at play. And so we need like a Google Maps kind of system for our work, and so I would say that's why it's hard for most people, and for yourself as well, is we've still got that, that two-dimensional, to-do list, which doesn't give us the feedback, doesn't show us, if we go this way, we can save 5 minutes on our travel time. And so what I do is create these systems that give us kind of that real-time information, so that you can navigate through that traffic, right? And not feel like you're just stuck behind 90 cars trying to get across the finish line.
So if someone wanted to try and implement some of this stuff, try and get rid of that old checklist and look at new tools, what are some of the new tools out there that they might want to look at? Sure.
So a lot of what I'm talking about is rooted in the information technology space. So my consulting began with something called Agile and Kanban. And so a lot of what I talk about is rooted in that. And so, and what these things are is basically, if people have seen Trello and they have some of an idea, I kind of guess Trello is kind of like your gateway drug. Like it's got some value and it's got some useful stuff to it, but it's simple for a reason, right? And it provides some input, but like literally, like a lot of people can even just do this as Post-its on a wall, right? But if you look up something like personal Kanban, that's a system I've used for a lot of, obviously I tweak it a lot, but it's basically like a system where you have cards that represent your work, and then you have your workflow mapped out, like how work flows from end to end, right? From a backlog or a to-do state to an in progress and a done state, and you can add more and more layers to it. So in the systems that I teach, we have, it's quite a few bits of layers of information, because again, we can process a lot visually that we can't do when it's just written down as text. So, so my suggestion would be, if you just wanted to get started and you haven't looked at something like Trello, I think that's a great place to start. Eventually, you'll find there's a lot more that you need, right? And so then you can look into, like I use another tool called kanbantool.com is one that I use a lot with my clients.
That's awesome. Great to know. So as we're going through this, based on this conversation, it sounds like a lot of your focus goes into how do we take everything on our plate, organize it, delegate it to the right people so that you get the results that you're looking for. Is that fair to say? Or what did I miss?
No, that's a great question, Justin. And it really starts with getting the full picture. So as you talked about, like having everything on there, that's the biggest problem. And the place you have to start is you have to have a full view of everything that's going on. And the problem is we often have things buried in lots of places. We have it on our phone, we have it on sticky notes next to our computer, we've got it in some online tool. You really want to get it all in one place. And part of the reason for that is our brain isn't going to let go of stuff if it doesn't have a system that it trusts, right? So you can, and the problem there is if it doesn't have a system it can't trust, then we're carrying all those things. The brain is processing those. So even though I'm trying to focus, like say on writing this email, it's part of an email campaign, it's like still spinning like 9 other things in the head, right? So I'm losing focus, I'm losing energy and attention. So yeah, so starting with a system, like get all of your tasks, everything on there, and then layer in the other bits of information that are really helpful to know. So obviously, yeah, if you're with a team, then you're layering in more information around, you know, who's working on what and that kind of thing. And if your goal is, for example, to delegate more, then one thing that I often do is, so in these boards, we have what's called like a done column. That's another thing is with a lot of our work, once it's done, it's kind of like done and run. Like we don't even think about it anymore, right? It just disappears, check it off the list, don't want to see it anymore, like goodbye, which is really unfortunate because there's a lot of, like, that's the gold, right? That's the data you want to mine to get better. So for example, let's say I know I need to get stuff off my plate. So in my done column, as I'm completing things, I'll break it down into like, is this and there's different ways to do it, right? But like, does this feel like a $10 task, right? So sometimes you can give like a monetary value, like a $10, $100, $1,000, where like 1,000 is like the revenue generating things. You know, Stephen Larson talks about it being like his big green dots. You know, there's different ways to do this. You know, and $100 is like the things that just have to get done to keep things rolling. And then the $10 things are really like, I shouldn't be touching any of this stuff, right? So as you're completing things, you're doing this little evaluation, like, is this something I might want to get off my plate or not? And so with no extra effort, really, you might discover a whole pile of work that you don't need to do anymore.
That's awesome. And I love it because it's so true. Even myself, like I look at my action items, I look at what I want to do, and at least 3 or 4 of every 15 are things that don't need done at all. Right? And yet they still make it on this list so that I can feel guilty about not doing them. Right? Because I mean, I'm a sucker for punishment. Let's do that. So I love that idea of making sure that you're working on what really needs done rather than just working. Because we all get stuck. We all get stuck doing them. So
yeah, it's a really good point. Is the fastest way to go faster is to figure out what not to be doing. You know,
I love that. You should make that a quote card because that is so true. The fastest way to go faster is figure out what you're not doing. So audience, write that down. And actually homework right now after this video, after this podcast, recording, whatever, write down what are 2 things that you should not be doing yet you feel guilty about. Do it. All right, continue on.
Yeah. So the other thing I would say is one of the things I find really valuable is helping people to celebrate, especially as an entrepreneur, right? When it feels like sometimes there's just no traction, you need those little wins to kind of keep the wind in your sails, so to speak. And so by having a time that you're checking in on a daily basis and a weekly basis, and looking at your completed items in particular, right? Like looking at them and just deriving some insight can be really amazing. It's like, and as you're going through your work, through your week, that stuff starts to pile up. And so you're visually seeing, yeah, like, look, this stuff's accumulating. It's like, yeah, I got some traction here. I'm getting some shit done. This like stuff's happening. That's so valuable. That's like brain candy, right? We need those little hits throughout our days and our weeks.
It is so true. That's one of the reasons, so in my sales training career, working with other salespeople, the best time to do sales is right after you've closed sales, right? Your mindset is right there, your energy, you're feeling good. Like, yeah. That's the best time to go out and do something. And what I'm hearing you say is, when you're done with something, don't just forget about it. Let that momentum build. Let that excitement, that energy build. That, look, I got a lot to do, but look how far I came. I think that is huge.
Yeah. We underestimate that. It's like Brendan Burchard talks about how like everything is energy in the end, right? So we put out so much, but we need to replenish that, or we're just going to start to grind and we're going to start to wear down. And so, celebrating your dones is one way to, fill that wine glass up a little bit more.
I love that. What a great reminder, great way to wrap this up. So as we're wrapping up, if someone wanted more help figuring this stuff out, if they wanted to talk to you, how would they get a hold of you?
Sure. Well, you can find me. I mean, my main website is gerrykirk.net with a G. You can also find me in there. I got links to all my socials, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Particularly pretty active on LinkedIn and Facebook. So you can definitely hit me up there if you want to chat. And on my website, you can find out more about some of the different programs I have to help, help entrepreneurs, CEOs, and teams shift into that higher state, right? Get past those growing pains and into the next stage in their entrepreneurial journey.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for taking the time, sharing your expertise, sharing your vision and what you do with us. Audience, listeners, thank you for investing your time with us here today. If we can help you at any level, we want to. That is why we are here, because together we go further, faster. So I see this game we call life, as a team sport. But I can only help you if you tell us, right? Same with Gerry. He can only help if you've reached out. So if you have questions, reach out. You can always find me at Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, all those fun places. And you can go to our website, unboxingevents.com. But with that said, have a wonderful day, and we will talk to y'all real soon.